What's up guys, GT here. So in my many years of tone dialing and tone chasing experience, I think Dimebag Darell's tone is something that I have never been able to dial in and never been able to come close to using the Axe FX2. And there is good reason for that, right? Because Dimebag used to play an amp which is the Randall amp, and it's a solid state amp which is not present in the Axe FX2. The Axe FX2 primarily has more tube amps to use to choose from, so naturally coming close to a solid state amp in the Axe FX2 is going to be really hard. So, and that explains why I've not been able to come close to it ever. But all of that changes today because in 2025 we have access to a lot of good resources such as isolated guitar tracks and YouTube, which can really help us to come really close and even come close to near perfection. When I say come close, using the Axe FX2 and a process called tone matching. Yes, in this video I'm going to be showing you how you can use the tone match block to come really close to Pantera's tone, or for that matter any artist's tone if you have the right resources. Now if you're already aware of how tone matching works, skip to the part where I'm actually using the Axe FX2 to dial in the tone. But in this video I'd like to explain a lot more about what tone matching really is and how it works. So if you are a noob like me and you want to understand what tone matching really is, stick around for the entire video and I'm sure you'll get a good understanding of how tone matching works. All right, first things first, let's talk about what tone matching really is. Now, tone matching is the process of taking a particular guitar tone and matching it. The name is pretty self-explanatory and there is not much needed to be explained there. Tone match is a block available in the Axe FX2, but to do tone magic, I said tone magic, but to do tone matching, there are a couple of requirements that the tone match block has. First and foremost, you need to have a very good input source to be able to provide to the tone match to be able to do its job. So when I say source, the tone match block needs a reference of what it's trying to match. Now, this works best if you have an isolated guitar track. Now, when I say isolated guitar track, it is best if you have a studio isolated guitar track where the guitars is the only thing that you hear and none of the drums or the bass or the vocals are bleeding into that other track. And it's absolutely important that this isolated guitar track is of good quality, perhaps a studio a -1 or a studio isolated guitar track would be really good in this case. But in our case, we are lucky enough to find an isolated guitar track of Dimebag's playing on YouTube, and we're going to be using that. The track is of really good quality, but also keep in mind that it's gone through layers of compression of YouTube as well, but it will do the job that we want it to do. The second requirement the tone matching block has is that you need to be able to use the same amp in your signal chain as what the guitar player usually used. Now, I'll give you an example. For example, if you're matching a John Petrucci solo, you would know that he's probably played a Mesa Boogie Mark Series amp in there. So you will have that available in the Axe FX2. You would want to put that in the signal chain before the tone matching block for it to work. Now, obviously, you won't put a Deluxe reverb amp in there and expect it to do the magic for you. It doesn't work that way. You need to have an amp that kind of sounds close to what the guitar player might have used. In our case, we don't have the Randall amp in the Axe FX2, so the question obviously is, what do we do in such a situation? The solution to this is very simple, but sometimes it's more time consuming, is to actually find an amp which sounds close to the amp that you're trying to dial in. So in our case, we have to find an amp which sounds close to the Randall amp, and don't worry, I've done all the hard work for you already. I've spent probably days and weeks trying to find out which amp kind of comes close to this kind of tone we are chasing, and we'll talk about it more when we dial in the preset using the Axe FX2. So with those two things in mind, let's jump into the Axe FX and see how we can dial in Pantera's tone using the tone matching process. I'll see you there. Now, usually at this point, we would jump into the Axe edit and I would show you how I dialed in the preset and how I got in the tone. But I want to take a quick minute and talk about the guitar that I'm going to be using for this particular video. Now, it's obvious that I'm trying to dial in a Dimebag Darell tone, or at least attempting to dial it. So I thought, what better way to do it than to actually do it on a Dean guitar. So I reached out to the awesome folks at DI Music, and they have been really kind and awesome to send me a Dean guitar over for loan for this video. And let me introduce you to the Dean ML Select Ocean Burst guitar, which is an awesome guitar. Now, right out of the bat, it's probably one of the wildest guitars that I've ever got to hold and play, and probably ever will be. And to my surprise, it's really comfortable, and it's just one of those guitars which you just wanna, strap on, plug it in, and just rock out. It's just got that energy to it, which is really awesome. Now, the shape is obviously very peculiar, and that's what makes it a Dimebag's kind of signature guitar in a way that this is not the signature model, by the way. This is an ML Select Ocean Burst. That's what it's called. Let's quickly talk about the specs of the guitar before we actually jump into the video. The body is a mahogany body. The top is a quilted maple top. As you can see, it's got this beautiful blue ocean burst happening. Hardtail bridge, and you've got two humbuckers here. These are the Seymour Duncan custom zebras. I believe this is the APH1 and this is the SH5. We've got individual volume knobs for both the pickups, which is really good. I have never seen that in any other guitar before, and I really like it that you can individually control the volume of each of the pickups. You've got one tone control over here, and at the bottom you've got your input jack, which is really well placed because it's out of your playing, and it's going to be out of the way of your strap, and it's not going to come into any contact with your hand ever if you're standing and playing or sitting and playing, which is really well placed. You've got these two beautiful fins over here, which I thought are going to be really uncomfortable to play when you're sitting down. But to my surprise, it's really comfortable. It doesn't really get into your way. And even while standing, I think this works really well. If it had the fourth fin over here, I would have, obviously felt a little uncomfortable with, kind of sliding it across the chest. But, I thought that since it doesn't have any contour here, it might be a little uncomfortable, but it's actually not. It's fairly light, and it's very easy to play. Now, there is a three-way pickup selector here as well. As you can see, it's really well placed as well. It doesn't get in the way of your playing, and it's really easy to kind of, quickly jump between the different three positions here. You guys already know what the three positions are. It's probably the neck, the middle, and the bridge then. For the fretboard, you've got a beautiful ebony fretboard, 22 frets. It came out of the box with a set of 9s on there. I changed it to 10s immediately because I'm more fluent with playing with 10s, and Pantera usually plays in a very drop tuning, so it's better to have 10s on there. And on the top, you've got this beautiful headstock, which is again a unique thing that I've never seen in any particular guitar. It's just pure metal. Everything about this guitar is pure metal. It just reeks of metal. It just wants you to play metal. Let's flip the guitar and look at a few things at the back as well. Now on the back, you've got this beautiful, I'm gonna try and see if I can not throw the light in your face. On the back, you've got this beautiful gloss finish over here, which is a mahogany finish, I believe. And then you've got these cavities, which are absolutely flush to the guitar body. Makes a lot of difference in terms of not nicking your t-shirt or your belt. It's just flush, and small little details that really matter a lot. You've got a cavity for your pickup selector separately, which is also a nice touch. A through neck here, as you can see, there's no bolt-on system here. And I really like the fact that the neck turns into this satin sort of a finish, which is so easy to play on. Glossy necks can get sticky and sweaty, but this one is absolutely wonderful to play on. I have zero complaints about this neck. It's absolutely gorgeous. No locking tuners here, but I didn't face any issues with any tuning stability as such. I do believe they have like a Floyd Rose version of it as well with the locking nuts here, but this one I prefer the standard fixed bridge. It's easier to tune up different tunings if you need to. All right, I think that's pretty much about the guitar. Let's jump back into the Axe Edit and let's dial in the tone now. All right, guys, so I've got Axe Edit loaded in front of me, finally. And what we're going to do now is dial in the preset from scratch. Like always, I've got a blank preset in front of me. What we're going to start is by dialing in the amp first. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the amp that Dimebag Darell used to use is not available in the Axe FX 2, but that's where you actually need to find an amp that sounds closest to the kind of tone you want to dial in, and that can be quite taxing at times, but not to worry, that's where I come in. I've done all the hard work and I've found the kind of amp that suits this kind of tone. What you want to use is actually actually the FAS Modern 3 amp. This amp is really close to the kind of tone we want to dial in. It's got that upper top end fizz, and if you've ever heard Dimebag's isolated guitar tracks, I'm sure you have, you would know the kind of tone we want to dial in. I don't know what this was modeled on, but it's the amp that works for the tone that we want to kind of dial in. So use the FAS3 Modern amp and let's get on with it. Before I go, I want to actually change the level to -4.8 because it kind of is low in volume. I don't want to touch anything on the amp. We'll keep everything stock. All right, next what you want to do is actually put the tone match block right after the amp. Now you could put a cab in between there, but it can really work well without a cab as well. So you don't need a cab. I actually don't prefer a cab block in there. The tone match block kind of does the purpose of the cab block as well. So you want to put the tone match block in here, and the moment you do that, you're going to be presented with these controls over here, which can get quite confusing, and you probably would not understand what to do over here, as I was stuck as well. Now, the way tone matching works is that the tone match block needs a reference source as an input for which it learns from and then tries to match the second source, which is your local guitar playing. I know it sounds confusing. It's going to make all sense. It's very simple, to be honest. It just needs A, as a reference source, which is the actual isolated guitar track, and B, it will try to match that source to your actual signal chain when you play the guitar. That's all that there is to it. But it might sound complicated with all these buttons. That's where I come in, and I'm going to make it simple for you. The first thing you want to do in the tone matching block is change the reference to source to USB. What this is telling the tone matching block is that use the input from the computer or the audio from the computer into the tone matching block as a source of the reference audio. Now, this is set to input 2 earlier. You don't want that. You want to set it to USB. That's the first most important step. The next thing you want to do is make your computers work in such a way that it can actually send the audio signals to the Axe FX2. Now, the way you do that is actually set the Axe FX2 as your default sound output and input device in Windows, which will make the Axe FX2 behave like an actual audio interface. Now, I already have an audio interface, but you might be using the Axe FX2 as a default output device already if you're using a laptop. But in my case, what I'll do is I'll go into the sound settings and I will change it from speakers or change it from MOTU M series, which is my actual audio interface, to actually speakers Axe FX2, which is going to set the Axe FX2 as a default output and input device. What's that going to do is that whatever audio you play now on the computer is going to go as an input source into the actual tone matching block. What we want to do next is actually start the reference recording in the tone matching block and play the actual audio from the isolated guitar track, which we got off YouTube. This is going to be the song for the song Walk by Pantera. Amazing track. Really good. And what that's going to do is send the audio signals into the tone matching block as a reference source. So I've already got the media player loaded. For my choice is actually going to be an MPV media player. You can use any media player, doesn't matter. What you want to do is press the reference to on and then go ahead and start playing the audio from the actual media player. It doesn't need to be quick, but you want to make sure that you're giving enough guitar parts. So let it play for 15-20 seconds so that it gets enough variation in the guitar parts. Now I might cut off the audio in this case because I don't want to get a copyright claim and I want to keep the YouTube copyright gods happy. I will actually play a good 20 seconds of the actual audio. So what you want to do is turn on the reference and then go into your media player and start playing. Once you finish playing, just come back and switch off the reference. That way it has got enough samples from the actual audio clip that you played on your computer. Now on the Axe Edit, you don't see any changes right now, but if you look at the front panel, you would see a graph formed in the reference side of the section of the graphs. I'll try and put a screenshot over here so that you can see. The next thing you want to do is actually play the parts from your actual local signal chain, which is the local button over here, and use your guitar to play the same parts. I know it's not going to sound the same as the tone we're trying to create because it's just an amp in a signal chain, but trust the process. Try to play the guitar parts with as clean playing as possible, and obviously use humbucker guitars. Don't use a single coil guitar in this case. That goes without saying as a requirement. So what we're going to do is start the local recording and I'm going to play the parts. Once you played enough, just go ahead and press stop on the local and press off rather. And now what you would see is another graph in the front panel, which will actually indicate to you that your local signal chain has also been recorded. If you just see the graph as a flat line, there's something not correct happening. Do the process again and you will be able to see the graphs happening. So what you want to do next is actually do the magic of tone matching, which is going to be by clicking the match button over here. What this is going to do is take the reference audio and try and match it to your local audio source as well. So let's hit match. The moment you do that, you would see this graph forming over here. And now when you play the parts, this is how it's going to sound. And there you have it. Without even tweaking anything in the amp, you actually got the tone to near perfection. Obviously, you can tweak anything in the amp now and get the tone to your liking. What I like to do is obviously add more drive. It sounded a bit dry at the moment, but you can obviously add more drive and you can get the kind of tone you want to do. After adding around 9 as the input drive, this is how it sounds. That sounds absolutely killer, isn't it? What I like to do next is switch back to my MOTU interface so that I get better audio quality and more control over the clipping and everything else. What I also want to do is add in a drive block. We can use a little bit more gain, isn't it? Let's add in a drive block. And keep in mind, I haven't tweaked anything in the amp other than just add drive. You could tweak stuff over here and it'll reflect into the actual tone as well. So don't need to worry about that. And what I'm going to do in the drive block is change this to a T808. I'm going to keep the drive as 0 and push the level up. The other thing I also like to do is add an enhancer block in most of my preset these days. This gives it that width and that spread across the different channels, which is the left and right channels, and you can get a much wider tone using this technique. Make sure you put the high cut all the way up because you don't want to lose any top end. And I keep the width and the depth at default. This is how it sounds. And believe it or not, that's all we need to do to actually get a good Pantera style tone out of there. Now, there are many other isolated guitar tracks available on YouTube, and you can actually do the process and get another really good preset done for Pantera or for Dimebag as well. The tone match block is here to stay. You don't need to do the process again and again. It's got saved into your preset. The moment you saved your preset, this preset is available to use offline as well. You don't need to do the whole process all over again. So it's just a one-time effort. Get your tone matches in and play like Dimebag Darell. It's as easy as that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the whole video walkthrough, and hopefully tone matching is not as difficult as it used to sound before. For me, it's really easy now, and if I have a good isolated guitar track for any guitar player, I can easily tone match. All I need to do is probably put some effort to find out which amp they used, and if that amp is not available in the Axe FX2, try to find something similar which comes close to the kind of tone you want to dial in. So hopefully this process has been really simple. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below if there is an easier way to do it. If you guys feel that this is still very complicated, we can do a front panel as well if you want me to do a separate video as to how to do tone matching just using the front panel. But that's it pretty much for this video. Again, thanks a lot for the awesome folks at DI Music for sending me this guitar as a loan, and I'm so excited to create this tone. I wish I could keep it and play more Pantera style stuff and learn more Pantera songs, but this is gonna go back. But nonetheless, a fantastic guitar. I would strongly recommend you go to Dean's site and check out the specs for the guitar and get one for yourself if you can. Make sure you give this video a like, goes without saying. Hopefully you enjoyed the content, and stick around and subscribe if you can, if you want to see more content like this. There's plenty of tone on the channel, and if you're feeling generous, check the links in the description box below as to how you can send something my way on my PayPal to support me if you like to, or the easiest way to support the channel is just subscribing. Until I see you guys in the next video, make sure you guys stay safe. Keep rocking, guys. Cheers. Bye-bye.